Welcome to the Penny for Your Thoughts podcast. This is your weekly insight into the small businesses of London. Today we're going to be talking to Jess Gardiner, who is the founder of The Assistant Room, and we're going to be talking about her journey from PA to CEO and everything she learned along the way. So Jess, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, The Assistant Room.
Yes.
How did it start? Why did it start? And what is the story?
Okay, so long story short, I spent 12 years as an executive assistant, mainly to C-suite directors in healthcare, ultra-high net worth property and fashion. Mm-hmm. And I always say, and I always will say, I absolutely love being an EA. I grew up in a household where my dad owns his own company. So I was surrounded by the kind of energy that you get from an executive and a CEO pretty much from the moment I was born. And I think that's why I loved it so much, because I was just so used to it, and it was an environment that I felt very comfortable in, and I kind of thrived in it. And I suppose I was always a kind of EA or PA in training, almost. So spent 12 years as an EA, but very quickly, well, not very quickly, kind of obviously towards the end of that 12 years, I was just getting burnt out every single week almost. Mm-hmm. You know, I was used to working 15, 16-hour days. It wasn't your kind of, as lots of PA, EA jobs are now, they're not it's not just diary management and typing and getting coffee that a lot of people think. It was managing and implementing huge strategy on behalf of businesses and running companies, and I was signing multi-million pound contracts on behalf of my bosses when I was 23 years old. So I absolutely loved it, but the burnout was huge. I mean, I think the misunderstanding of what an incredible executive assistant does means that all of that impact that you provide on a daily basis is really overlooked. So I just gave it up one day. I had no plan of action. I had no job to go to. I had nothing other than a desire to, for the first time in over a decade, put my mental health above the need to support somebody else. So I remember I was in the office one day and I was having a chat with my boss, and I just decided this isn't for me anymore. I just need to take a couple of months out, have a break, typed my notice out, printed it, didn't even put it in an envelope, and just handed it to her straight away, walked away from a lovely package, and then 2 days later realised what I had done.
Sure, yeah.
And thought, how am I going to pay my bills? Just made sure that I had a deadline to when I was going to go back to work, but also thought I need to keep myself busy somehow, so I started The Assistant Room.
Which is
from where it started, which was a tiny little blog, which I didn't really care if anyone read it or knew about it or even knew it existed. Over the last 6 years, we've now grown into one of the biggest networks for PAs, EAs, business support professionals in the UK. We have people who are impacted by the different types of support that we provide in over 37 different countries.
Wow.
So we have our website where we post lots of thought leadership posts, opinion pieces, expert testimony on career articles or career-related topics. We have our podcast.
Of course.
We have our membership platform, which is a platform created to provide PAs and EAs for most of them the first time ever, career growth, advice, support, access to learning and development, access to talks, networking events to grow their own professional network. And then we also have a very, very confidential side of the business, which is our headhunting side of the business. So I personally work with lots of amazing C-suite directors to find the most amazing PAs and EAs in London and across the UK. So it's it's gone from being, this tiny little thing to being huge. And it's just slowly grown, but we're very authentic, we're still the platform that I wished had existed when I was a PA.
Mm-hmm. And it's no surprise that you have built this coming from where you are. Obviously 12 years as a PA must have taught you so many things.
Yeah.
What kind of transferable skills have you brought over from being a PA to being a CEO?
There is definitely not one skill.
Yeah.
I think if you are a PA or an EA and you have the right boss or you work for the right company, you're effectively being mentored through running an entire business. So without me even realising, for 12 years, I was learning every single thing about running a business, how not to run a business as well. You know, the importance of culture, the importance of treating your employees right, the importance of making a quick decision, trusting your intuition, you know, all of the things that are important from an emotional intelligence perspective, but then also how to create budgets, how to write processes, how to implement strategies. Every single thing that I was doing as a PA prepared me for running the assistant room as business, and I could not have done it without being an executive assistant or personal assistant first. No way.
Sure. No, I can totally imagine. Like, we don't ever really have anyone, we haven't really had anyone on here so far that's had such a sort of extensive career in such a very similar field. Like, similar but totally different field, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. I can also, though, imagine there's been some big challenges. Do you want to talk us through one or two of those?
I think, especially when you're starting to run your own company, you have to be realistic that you're always going to be faced with a challenge. And I think unless you are constantly being challenged, you're sitting in a comfort zone that you need to try and break out of. But if I'm to look back at, I'd say that probably the most consistent challenge that I faced when I first started, probably actually for the first 2 years, was trying to ignore the noise around overnight success. Because overnight success does not exist. I think it's actually a really toxic ideology, really toxic. It drives me absolutely mad where you've got people selling for like $37, you know, a 1 hour course that teaches you how to build an email funnel that will take you from earning $2,000 a month to 6 figures a month. It's so damaging. And I think that being able to lead with a really authentic message is how you're able to overcome those constant challenges of seeing, you know, these kind of get rich quick, effectively, strategies that people, I don't believe, well, for some people they might work, but for a lot of us they don't work. And people think that it's going to be their kind of road to success if they take this 1 hour course and they can go from earning £2,000 a month or $2,000 to $200,000, and it just doesn't work like that. So I think it's that was probably the most consistent challenge that I always came up against, because I was always tempted, and I still am always tempted. Like, I still look at those things that come up on Facebook or LinkedIn and I'm like, oh my god, this sounds amazing, this would solve all my problems. I'm having a bit of a down month, I'll spend 50 quid and that'll be it, my prayers will be answered. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, what do you say to yourself when you get like tempted by that kind of thing? How do you like bring yourself back and reassure yourself?
I think it's about trusting yourself and your experience, and knowing that running a business, kind of reminding yourself of all the things that you've experienced so far. You know, running a business isn't something that happens overnight. You know, overnight success doesn't exist. And it's about having that authentic message and having that continuous drive to deliver that message, and knowing that that's your USP. You know, you don't need to make that much money that quickly. You want to scale, you know, not necessarily slowly, but responsibly. And I think for me, it's looking back to all of the achievements that I've made on my own, without, you know, any kind of input from other people, to say, hang on a second, you know, if what you're thinking, you know, what you're thinking is right, you know, trust yourself, go with your gut, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But yeah, I hate those get success quick kind of things. It drives me nuts.
Okay, and so we have quite a few people watching, listening, that might be looking to start something of their own. Maybe they're kind of like you a few years ago, when they're like, oh my god, I'm so burnt out, I want to like, I need to like, you know, get going on something. What would be your top piece of advice for people just starting out?
I think, I mean, when I was 20, I had the idea that I wanted to do something, but I wasn't too sure what it was. And it wasn't until I was 25, 26 that the assistant room was created. And when I look back at what I was trying to do when I was 20 was really desperately think of an idea that would be worth it. And I looked around at everybody that were setting their own companies up, friends of mine, whether they were just tiny little side hustles or, like someone making muffins in their kitchen and then selling them, or something maybe a little bit different, like setting up a server company, those two complete different ends of the spectrum. And I always used to try and look and think, okay, what they're doing is working, so that's what I need to do. What they're doing seems really interesting and it's getting loads of likes on social media, or they've got a new client, or they've got a piece in the newspaper. So that's what I should be doing. And that definitely is not the right way to go. So I left it alone when I was 20. I kind of just came back to it, and I was just very slowly over a couple of years. I think it is about finding your passion and being realistic in terms of, is this a business? I think if we could all turn our hobbies into something that earned us money, we would. But it's a lot harder than that. You have to really believe in what you're doing, and you have to prepare to become obsessed with your company and put everything to the side. When I first started the assistant room, because I quit my job without any savings and without any income coming in, I lived on poached eggs on toast for 6 months, to the point now where I'm intolerant to poached eggs. Like, I can't eat brunch anymore, and it drives me mad. Like, I can't eat eggs Benedict anymore, which is absolutely tragic. But it was, I had to prioritise, and I had to think, if I really want to make this work, I have to commit. And that means, not going out as often as I used to be, not, reducing the budget that I spent on from however many £1,000 a month to like £500 a month. And rewarding myself with things that I actually really enjoyed, and not just kind of frittering money away just because I had it. So everyone's different, everyone's on their own journey. But it's just about going back to like trusting your intuition and trusting your gut as well. If you think it's going to work, just give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world.
So the final question on the podcast is always the one left by the previous guest. The previous guest has asked you, where do you see your company going in the next 2 years?
So I think it's building on and creating a bigger presence of the products that we currently offer. So we've obviously got the membership, which is an amazing resource. And I absolutely love, we partner with lots of different corporate companies at the minute, but I would love for us to continue building that list of companies who want to provide their PAs and EAs with access to learning and development. But also the headhunting side. We have a really strong group of clients at the minute that I absolutely love working with. And I think growing that part of the company and expanding maybe into San Francisco, where we have a big presence already as well, would just be amazing, absolutely amazing. So just kind of building on what we're doing, continuing that momentum, continuing to grow the team, and kind of helping PAs and EAs around the world.
Cool, just onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards.
Brilliant.